I didn't know that my early labor has started. And it's like super TMI. You're fully dilated, it's time to push. I heard a lot of like literally horror stories about the postpartum. That's kind of crazy. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I haven't been here for a long time because there was a lot of things going on, and as I remember, my last video was 39 weeks pregnancy update, and if you noticed, there was no 40 weeks pregnancy update because yeah, that actually happened, and our baby boy was born just a few days before my due date, and today is exactly 2 weeks as we are family of 3. That sounds crazy. Still, I can't believe that it's actually happening, and there is a teeny tiny human being sleeping just in front of me. But yeah, here we are, and today I wanted to share with you my birthing experience and tell you more about what were my expectations versus what was the reality about my labor, delivery, and postpartum. Just to clarify, that's my personal experience, and of course everybody is different and everybody's experience is different, but maybe my story will be helpful for someone of you, especially if you're an expecting parent. So yeah, that's why I'm here, and let's get started. So I decided to divide my video into 3 parts, and of course I will start with the labor part. And the first thing I wanted to tell you about is about the signs that your labor is coming. When you're entering the 3rd trimester or getting even closer to your due date, you're starting to look for symptoms that could tell you that you are going into labor soon. That's what I did. And the symptoms I read about and that most girls are experiencing were baby dropping, losing your mucus plug, Braxton Hicks contractions that are more intense and frequent, back pain, and stomach issues. Those were my expectations. Those were symptoms I was trying to notice in my body, in my behavior, but in reality, I didn't experience most of those. Yeah, the only symptoms I had before going into the labor is that I was extremely tired, extremely sleepy, and actually I had some back pain. But if you're watching my videos for some time, you already know that I had back pain issues like for the whole 3rd trimester. So it was really hard to tell if this back pain any different than the back pain experience like a week or 2 ago. So yeah, I didn't notice any symptoms or signs that I'm going into the labor soon. Next one, symptoms that are actually telling you that, girl, you're in your early labor. And the most obvious symptom that you are in early labor is having contractions, like real contractions. And I always had a question, like, how would I know? How would I know that those aren't Braxton Hicks or just some kind of pain but real contractions? And everybody was telling me that you will know. You just will know. And you know what? I didn't. As I found out later, I was contracting for more than 12 hours and I didn't even know that. That sounds totally crazy. I know that sounds crazy even for me, but I have to say that I expected contractions to feel like totally different. I expected it to be like an intense pain that lasts for about a minute, and then you have a rest for maybe 5 or 10 minutes depending on what stage of labor you are. But what I experienced was just a dull pain, like a period cramp or something like that, with no intense moments and no rest periods. I was just cramping for 12 or maybe 15 hours like before the period. And that's all. Next one. I wanted to have a natural unmedicated birth, and thankfully I had a chance to achieve this goal, and that actually what happened to me. And of course, during the whole third trimester, I think I did my research on this topic. Especially I read a lot about the tools that will help you to cope with pain, like breathing techniques and everything like that. After this whole research, of course, I had some tools that seemed to be like perfect for me and that I was actually going to use during the labor. But I have to say, in real life, it's impossible to tell what would work for you during the labor until you are in labor. That's difficult to explain, but most of the tools I thought would work for me during the labor, I actually never even tried. And the opposite, something I thought would never work for me, actually did. You'll never know how you will be feeling, what your body will need during the labor. So just be prepared, do your research, and follow your instincts. And one more thing about the labor is about my hospital bag. I had a separate video on my YouTube channel when I showed you what I packed into my hospital bag, or to be more correct, my birth center bag, and those were my expectations that I will use all those things, and you know what? I didn't use most of the things that I packed with me. That is my reality. If you're interested, like what is actually useful during the labor and delivery and what I actually used, please let me know in the comment section below, and I will do like a whole separate video on what was really useful during labor and delivery. But yeah, that's my reality, and I can say that instead of that huge suitcase I packed with me, I could bring like a small backpack, and that would be enough. The first thing I wanted to say that the delivery or pushing part scared me the most, and my expectations were that this would be like the hardest and the most intense part of the whole birthing process. But I was so wrong. Of course, you may feel totally different, but for me, pushing part was like not that bad at all. Maybe that's because you know that if you're pushing, you're almost there, and in about an hour or so you will meet your baby. But for me, active labor part and transition part were much more intense and difficult than pushing itself. So if you're also like me scared about the delivery part the most, please won't be. That's not that bad. One more thing about the delivery, and I think labor too, is that it is such a long process, especially when you're thinking about it. When I thought about being in labor for 10 or maybe 12 or even 24 hours, that was just freaking me out, because it's so long, and thinking about being in pain for 24 hours isn't good for you, you know. And of course it could take this long, but I have to say, when the process has already started, the time goes in totally different way. You just can't tell how long you are already in labor, like for an hour, or it's already been 5 hours. You are just losing it, or at least that's how I felt. And time, it just has stopped. So please don't be afraid of those numbers like 10 hours, 12 hours, 24 hours. Yes, you have to live through it. Yes, it's like a long process, but actually you don't feel those hours and time flies really fast while you are in labor. Next one. As I mentioned, I didn't know that my early labor has started. So the same thing I expected like for delivery too. I expected that midwife will do a checkup every hour or so, and after one of those checkups, she would tell me that it's time, you're ready, you're fully dilated, it's time to push, and I would start pushing, but it happened like the opposite way. I didn't actually know how long I was in labor, how many centimeters I was dilated, but I just knew what's going on and my body knew what to do. And yeah, that's not what I was expecting at all, but that's what happened, and I just one more time realized that your body already knows what to do. Trust yourself and trust your instincts. And I guess it's time for a postpartum part. Something I wanted to start from is that, as I mentioned, I gave birth in birthing center, and when we discussed the whole labor and delivery process with them, like before the things actually happened, they mentioned that most of women who gave birth in birthing center went home in about 4 to 6 hours after the delivery. And when I heard it for the first time, I was like, what? How is it possible? I thought it's like at least 24 or maybe even 48 hours, and just then you can go home. And that was actually my expectations, but in reality, that's what happened to me. And in 5 hours after our baby boy was born, we were already at home. One more time, this isn't a medical advice in any ways, but this is what actually happened to me. Next thing I wanted to talk about, and it's like super TMI, as like everything in this video, is tearing during the birth. I spoke to a lot of expecting mamas before going into the labor, and they mentioned that tearing is like their biggest fear and concern about the whole birthing experience. And actually, when you think about that, that doesn't sound good like at all. But I have to say from my experience that I actually had some tearing, and obviously that isn't something super nice and pleasant, but that is not that bad. I didn't feel a thing like in the process, you know. I had some discomfort after the delivery, especially for the first like 2 or 3 days, but this whole thing is totally manageable, and I would say that it's not that much bad like everyone expected to be. And I also wanted to share with you my experience about the postpartum period overall. I also did some research, like how it's going, what you need, how you're feeling after giving birth, and this is also the part of the whole birth experience I was like super afraid of. I heard a lot of like literally horror stories about the postpartum, when girls were saying that it even worse than giving birth itself. But one more thing, when my expectations didn't meet the reality, and I would say that it's not that bad too. Of course, you are not comfortable, obviously, for the first 2, 3, maybe 5 days. You need to rest a lot. You need to give your body time to recover, but that's not that bad. Especially when you are looking at your baby and you know that everything was worth it, you just forget about those small things like some stitches or some soreness or anything like this. Now I'm thinking that I may sound like too good and too optimistic, too positive, but that's how I'm actually feeling, and maybe I will change my opinion in some time when, you know, my hormones like get back to normal. But for now I can say that it's totally worth it. And if you're expecting, if you're preparing currently for your labor and delivery, please don't be afraid. Be prepared, be aware, but don't be afraid. That's like the last thing you need. Trust yourself, trust your body, trust your instinct, and like be open, because you never know what's going to happen, but whatever happens, it is meant to be, and you just have to accept it. I also would like to share my birthing story, like how actually things happened, because I think that's kind of crazy story. So if you're interested, please also let me know in the comments below, and I will do like the separate birthing story video and share with you my positive experience. But for now, I think that's all. It's so good to be back. I hope that now we'll be able to do more videos and appear more often on my channel. I will greatly appreciate support from your side. Please give this video a thumb up and subscribe to stay tuned. And thank you so much for being with me today. I wish you all a great day and see you in my new videos. Bye!